And if I also think that life has to be constant, I'll miss the opportunities to pivot. Like, to me, pivot sometimes means you quit. Like, I know it's not a sexy topic. A lot of people are like, yo, never be a quitter. I'm not that. Like, I will tell my son in the minute that something, like, I'm all about the pivots. Like, the minute that something ain't sitting right with you, quit and change and go another direction. Because a lot of people, they stay in stuff, relationships, jobs, locations, way too long for the sake of just sticking it out, for the sake of not being a sellout, for the sake of wanting to finish. And like, for me, all of my successes have come on my ability just to pivot, knowing like, man, you know what, you can make that adjustment and you don't have to wait. Like, you could do it now. Like, you can make the decision today to live a completely different life, have completely different results. You don't have to wait till a new year. You don't have to wait till the first of the month. You don't have to wait till your cousin come out from out of town. You can make the decision now. And so it's really that mentality that, man, life is all about the pivots. And the minute that you are okay with making them, the closer you'll be to success and having everything you desire.
Man, it's crazy because I don't think you know much about my background at all, which is funny. You just described a lot of it. I had a fashion brand, Bellwether Fashion, obviously in the back, right there is one of my hats that Bellwether. I mean, I think ended that business maybe in 2017, 2016. I did it for about 4 years. Um, Christian rapper, did that for, I mean, probably for 10 years straight into the pandemic. I put out a project every year.
Wow.
Um, the reason I'm saying that, because as you were talking, it's like if if someone were to ask me, about how I obtain any level of my success, it is exactly what you have described. With the fashion business, I'll tell you this, and I'm saying this because I love giving practical examples on this show. What's up, Jen? How you doing? Yep, there you go. See, Jen is
What's
a
up?
faithful, long time listener. I had an episode talking about failing fast because sometimes we waste too much time trying to do something that's already dead. And I had the fashion business, Justin, and what happened was Instagram, if you go back, Instagram 2013, 2014, that's pre-algorithm. I
Yeah,
could post a hat or a shirt and literally within minutes have orders across the country.
it's crazy.
Florida, Texas, Cali, the Netherlands, Africa. I have sent clothes and fashion everywhere. And so it was a great few years of that. Instagram inserted the algorithm, and I remember being devastated because my business was so dependent on online, and I wasn't prepared for it, in all honesty. So I'm not blaming
Right.
anyone, but I got to this point where I had spent like 4 years doing this. I was really deep in it. My wife supported it, but I was kind of like, long term, I don't see how this is going to deliver. Like, there's a certain amount of revenue for me, or like, I'm like, I don't think this is going to deliver that. And I made a pivot. So,
Yeah.
to your point, man, sometimes that next thing is better than the thing we're holding on to, but you will never actually even experience it until you pivot.
Yeah, you will never, and that's Bishop Jake says it like this. He talked about a story of his son, and his son was trying to figure out like what he would do next in life. And his son was kind of like struggling with it because he's like, Dad, like, what if this isn't the thing though? Like, what if this isn't the thing that God has called me to? And he said, son, if this isn't the thing, it'll be the thing that leads you to the thing. And I
I
think
love
so
it.
often we just don't take action. Like, we stay in inaction and we just sit and we're like, all right, God, like, give me a vision, give me a sign, show me the way. And he's like, yeah, you got to do the thing. And there, it might not be like your first business might not be the one that I had for you, but it's going to be the business that leads you to the business that I have for you. Like, the first relationship might not be the one that I got for you, but it's going to be the relationship that leads you to the relationship that I've got for you. And if we never are okay with making those pivots, we will hold on to things way too long. And that's just the piece, man, is I try to make sure I tell myself continually that, Justin, like, what pivot can you make? How do you make a pivot? Like if I'm honest, it's a way, it's a mindset, right? Like it's a way of thinking. It's a, hey, I'm never out of the game. Like I can always make an adjustment. I can always shift. It's like it's a mindset that says, okay, I know what I don't have, but what do I have? I know what I lost, but what did I gain? I know who I don't have, but who do I have? I know the amount of money I don't have, but what can I do with the money that I've got? Like it's always looking for that next lane, like that next pivot, that next adjustment. And like that's really just that's my message to the world. It's like, man, like we cannot be afraid to make the pivots. That literally everything that you probably are desiring that you don't have right now is on the opposite side of a pivot you've yet to make. And often that pivot is very clear to us. We know, you knew 3 years ago that you should have been left and did something else. You should have been relocated. God put that vision in you that, yo, you're supposed to travel somewhere and do this, but you just didn't do it. And it's like, that's the permission. It's like always giving people the permission. Yo, you can never, like you could always be okay making the pivots and they'll take care of you.
It in a lot of ways, it sounds like a pivot mindset is really a mindset of gratefulness. Like, because when you talked
Wow.
about this idea of like, yeah, I know what I lost, but what can I gain? What did
Yeah.
I gain? Even when you talked earlier, you had just kind of briefly mentioned your father passing when you were 12, and I don't know if you could touch back on that a little bit. You
Yeah.
said that was one of the best things that ever could have happened, and obviously that's from the outside looking in, um, something so presumably tragic and emotional. Just to even hear you be able to say it with that type of you know, thought process and perspective, I would love to hear a little more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a really a mindset thing. So here's how I think about it is I'm committed to living a life wide open. And if I'm committed to living that life wide open, if I'm committed to living the life that God has called me to live, I've got to know when I'm in purpose and when I'm out of purpose. And I feel 100% that I'm in purpose, that what I'm doing now and that the life that I have is the life that God desired for me to have. So it's not just my father dying was the best thing that could have happened to me. Every single thing that has happened in my life is the absolute best thing that could have happened to me. If it wasn't, it would have happened. Like everything that has happened to me, good, what people would consider good, what people would consider bad, all of it is the best. This is really just coming to me now, by the way, but all of it is the absolute best thing that could have happened to me. And so that's really what I mean when I say it's the best thing, in that I don't know what other life I would have had, but I just know that this is the best one. Like I don't know what my life would have been like with my father, but if that was the best one, God would have kept my father here. And so I've got faith that that wasn't my best life, that the one I'm in now is my best life. And so for me, it was tough, growing up and, just hearing legacy and hearing who he was as a person. And as you continue to grow and mature and develop, they're like, man, you just like your dad. Or my mom be like, man, you just like your dad in that way. Or you sound just like him. Or when you wear that hat, you look just like him. And you bump into that. I bump into that all the time. But I think for me, it's being okay, again, knowing like, man, this is God's best. And I've just given my life to the fact that I don't know what's best for me. And I serve a God who I believe does. If I really say I serve that God, I must also say that I know that everything he has allowed to happen in my life didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And so it's like, again, it's kind of that pivot mindset. It's like, man, okay, this is what I've got. This is clearly the best thing for me. And sometimes we don't later learn that in life. I know 100% that the father that I am today is because I didn't have my father. Like the way that I hug my children, the way that I look at them, the way that I have thoughts about, man, like I wonder how my dad was when I was this age. Or did I get the same kind of hugs that I'm giving my son? Did I get those when just that awareness? I wouldn't have had that had my father been there. Had my father been a great dad, yeah, there probably been other things I would have had. But the person that I am today, I just wouldn't be it. I wouldn't have the kind of passion, the fire that I've got. I experienced a lot of like challenge early in life. And I think that propelled me like in my college years, because when people were like, for them, they failed a college test and all hell had broke loose. And I'm just like, come on, man. Like this made you a bad day. Like you a bad day because of that. Like you don't understand. I just seen my cousin get shot, or like I just had a gun pointed in my face like 3 weeks ago. That was a bad day. And so it was all context. But I think when I think through it, again, I go back to like, man, whatever God allowed, I just believe is God's best.
I think that is powerful. Because it's like the anti-victim mentality is really what I hear.
Yeah.
Because, and this is why I'm such a realist. In reality, we all have problems, we all have issues, and even when we come from the same communities, let's be real, like this
100%.
is my problem with these monolithic group titles that they try to put on us all, and all Black people the same, all white people the same. We are not. Culturally, yeah, you come from a certain place, there are a lot of similarities,
right?
But when you allow yourself to believe that extreme through and through, you also kind of disrespect what other people have went through. And like the victim mentality would give you every reason, losing your father at the age of 12, to give up, to become a criminal, to not try or do your best. And what I love about what you describe, which I believe is the Christian way, I believe the Christian way, based on the Bible and what I read in biblical principles, is that we should be empathetic, which is essentially the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So we should not be dismissive of people's issues and problems that are different than us. But we also should not elevate our own problems, because the way I view it is that I always tell people, if you change one thing, you change everything. And then the other thing is that, what can you name me that Jesus going to the cross was not powerful enough to overcome? There is nothing. So the victim mentality really elevates our own problems above Christ dying on the cross.
You never
what
win
we're
from
essentially.
it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like you don't win from it. Like I just had a coaching client session, like literally right before here. And the homework that I gave this client was write down everything that is like not working, like everything that you just aren't satisfied and you just don't like in your life. Write that down, and right next to it, I want you to be very detailed on how it's all your fault. And she was like, what kind of assignment is this? Right? Like, what are you? And I said, if you don't learn to always look for fault in things, you will miss opportunities of growth. And so you realize that often this is an extreme way. I'm not saying that everybody can do this. This is like coaching, like very intense and with support and all that kind of stuff. But pretty much the exercise was for her to be aggressively looking for ways to take ownership, because when you aggressively look for ways to take ownership, you aggressively find ways to develop yourself and find like my grandma used to say, boy, there's still some meat on that bone. Like you look for the meat on the bone. Like, it's like, yo, I know you think that was such a bad scenario and that it was all their fault. And looking from the outside, yes, absolutely, that was all theirs. But is there anything that you could find that could be potentially your fault? Because if you could find a way to blame yourself on things, you now put yourself back into control. And now you say, man, if this was my fault, I can change this. And here's the thing, when it's your fault on the negative, it can also be your fault on the positive. It's not one-sided. It's like, yeah, everything that bad, man, that's my fault. I take that. I learned that in football. I learned like, yo, when you messed up on a play, you called that. My bad, y'all. That's me. My bad. Like you took ownership of the ball being dropped, or you missing a tackle. But then when you won, we're gonna celebrate in the end zone. Like we're gonna turn up.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but you can't have one without the other. Like you can't not say, yo, I take that, that's my bad, and then always celebrate. It's like, no. Like that's not how we move. And I think if we treat our lives like that, man, we find so many ways that we can grow and get better.
Ownership and accountability. All right, we got a couple minutes, so I
I
didn't get to
know, man.
everything I
I know
wanted
this is
to.
so good. This is so
I
good.
gotta choose one. Man, I got a few more. This is
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, you can go ahead. I'm good. You can go ahead.
You sure, bro? I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, I'm only going with 10 minutes, 10
Okay.
extra minutes, and I'll
All
get
right.
you out of here. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Because you said so much dope stuff. I'm like, I wanna check. I wanna dig into that. Like, so one of the things that, you know, this conversation around ownership and accountability really makes me think about, like, I know you have a lot of experience in corporate America, right? And this show is about faith in business, and some folks listening to this show are trying to grow a career. Like I said, the person I was talking to today is trying to figure out, like, just entering corporate America, entry level, coming from where we come from, culture shock. I've been there, still in some ways, always put myself in uncomfortable situations. Like, what role has corporate America played in shaping you into the entrepreneur?